problem for you. See, because I am originally from Jersey, and I speak at 150 words a minute with gusts of 350. Okay? So you're not going to be able to keep up, and sorry out there in TV land and on the web, you're not going to be able to keep up anyway, but I want to point out that there are resources you can get on the web right now that cover most of what I'm going to talk about. Here are a number of places you can go to get information on this issue. Crossexamine.org, that's our website. If you go there, you can get information on this issue. Other places you can go are frc.org, americansfortruth.org, allianceformarriage.org, that's the one I was talking about last week that Matt Daniels runs, str.org, that's for Stand to Reason, coalitionofconscience.org, that's actually one here in Charlotte, North Carolina, run by Michael Brown, the Reverend Michael Brown, very good organization, and our other organization is called impactapologetics.com. The two bookends, crossexamine.org and impactapologetics.com, if you go to either one of those sites and click on resources, you can get a free download of the Case Against Same-Sex Marriage Without Using the Bible. Okay, it's a PDF, and it has most of what I'm going to talk about here in it. Okay, so make a note of that. Go to, it's really on the Impact site, impactapologetics.com, but you can get there through crossexamine.org, and you can download this PDF and have most of what I'm going to talk about here tonight and last week, okay? You guys ready to go? All right, let's deal with this, you're trying to impose your religion on me, okay? This is the separation of church and state objection. First of all, can anyone in here quote the First Amendment? What does the First Amendment say? Anyone? To the United States Constitution. This is known as the interactive portion of the program. What is the First Amendment? What does it say? There won't be a state-established church, someone says. Survey said? And that's not what it says. What does it say?
Congress will make no laws regarding the establishment of religion.
All right, you're getting close. The First Amendment says, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion, nor prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Did anyone hear the word separation, church and state in there anywhere? No. The separation of church and state came into our law through a court decision in 1947, the Everson Court, where they pulled a quote from an old Thomas Jefferson letter and put it into a Supreme Court opinion. And from that point on, we've thought the church and the state are to be completely separate. You can read all about it in the book Legislating Morality, also available at impactapologetics.com. But that's not even the issue. Forget separation of church and state for a minute. We can debunk that, but let's just forget it for a minute. Let's point out that morality, not religion, is being legislated. See, religion has to do with our duty to God. Separation of church and state is not the issue. The issue is not religion, but morality. Religion has to do with our duty to God, but morality has to do with our duty to one another. Nobody in this debate is telling anybody how, when, where, if to worship. Right? I'm not trying to tell people who think that they're involved in homosexual activity that they ought to go to a particular church or worship in a certain way. That's not the point here. We're not talking about religion. We're talking about morality. Religion's our duty to God, morality's our duty to one another. And I've got news for you. You've heard it how many times? You can't legislate morality, right? That is the only thing you can legislate. Think about it. Every law declares one behavior right and the opposite behavior wrong. That's what morality is, right and wrong. Not only can you legislate morality, all laws legislate morality, the only question is whose morality will you legislate? On the issue of same-sex marriage, homosexual activists want to impose morality on you. What morality do they want to impose? They want to say that this particular activity ought to be endorsed by the federal or state governments and or both. It's usually a state issue when it comes to marriage. And they want tax dollar benefits to pay for it. When two homosexuals get married, your state government revenue is going to go to benefit them. That's an imposition of morality. They say they ought to have that. That's a moral position. See? So they're trying to impose morality just like everybody else. The only question is, what's the right morality to impose? All laws legislate morality. Second point. Some churches are against same-sex marriage, but that doesn't preclude civil laws against it. Otherwise, we couldn't have laws against murder, rape, theft. You say, well, it's in the Bible that homosexuality is a problem, right? That might be true. But it's also in the Bible that murder is a problem, that theft is a problem, that rape is a problem. In fact, if you can't legislate principles consistent with the Bible, then we can't have laws against murder, rape, theft, or anything else the Bible talks about. Just because it's in the Bible doesn't mean you can't have a law that speaks to that issue. So the main point here is religion does not equal morality. Are the two related? Well, of course. But you don't have to get into religion to talk on this issue. Final point on this. If this were a valid objection, the separation of church and state, then we couldn't legalize same-sex marriage because there are some churches that actually endorse it. Right? I mean, there are churches out there that say, yeah, come on in, we'll ordain you and we'll marry you too. So if this was a valid objection, then the same-sex marriage activists couldn't use it because it would wipe out their don't like their choices and thus position as well. So it's not a matter of religion, it's a matter of morality. What about equal rights? I've got news again. Everybody has the same right to get married. The law applies equally to everybody, but there are restrictions that everybody has to live up to. You have to live up to them, I have to live up to them, everybody has to live up to them. You have to marry somebody qualified from the opposite sex. Everyone has equal rights. The right to marry the opposite sex. Homosexuals, they want special rights. They want the special right to marry somebody of the same sex. I don't have that right either. In fact, if we grant special rights for homosexuals, on what grounds can we deny special rights to consenting adults who desire to engage in other socially destructive behavior, such as polygamy or incest? One homosexual activist who was confronted with this objection said, on what grounds can you say you want same-sex marriage, but you can't allow polygamy or incest? She says, well, I'm just against those. In fact, I mean, it's just arbitrary at that point. I had a discussion once with a homosexual activist here in Charlotte. He said, I can do whatever I want as long as I don't hurt somebody else. I said, even if that were true, how do you know what hurt means? Does hurt just mean, does it mean physical? What about economic? What about emotional? What about spiritual? What about all those other hurts things? But let's leave that aside for a second. You're saying that you can do whatever you want if you're a consenting adult and the other person's a consenting adult. He said, yes. I said, okay, question. What if you consented to have sex and so did your mother? You had sex with your mother. Would that be okay? And he stopped and his upper lip quivered a little bit and he said, yes. Well, he had to say yes. Why? In order to be consistent with his position, he had to say yes. But logically, he knew that the moral law was written on his heart, and that's why his upper lip was quivering. He's going, no, this isn't right, but I have to say yes. Suppress the truth in unrighteousness, Romans 1. Suppress the truth because you want to do something you know you ought not do. Everyone has the same right to form relationships, but no one has a right to have the relationship endorsed by the state. Just because you have a desire to do something, that doesn't mean that the state has to recognize it as a right. You know, people can get married who are homosexuals right now. I mean, 2 men or 2 women can get married. It happens all the time. It's a whole cottage industry. There's gay weddings that happen all the time. What they don't have is state endorsement. They can go do it if they want to, if they want to have a commitment to one another, they do it all the time. But there's no provision in the law for the state to say, we're going to give you benefits because of it. That's what they want. They don't want tolerance, they want endorsement. We talked about why last time, because that will legitimize homosexuality. Now what about sexuals like being black? Any of you African Americans here should jump on this one quickly because it's not the same thing. Why not? Because sexual behavior is always a choice, race never is. You'll find many former homosexuals, you'll never find a former African American. Except, of course, from Michael Jackson, but he's had surgery. Okay, there's a different standard there. But what's the point? The point is that race is never a choice, but sexual behavior always is. Also, gender and ethnicity are not the same as feelings or behavior. Committing homosexual acts is harmful, but gender or skin color is not. You don't harm anybody by having a certain skin color. It's not the same as behavior. But you can harm people when you engage in sexual behavior that is unhealthy and spreads disease, as I talked about last time. Still, in this country, in 2005, there were 160 people who contracted AIDS via blood transfusions. You say, oh, we got that problem solved. No, we don't. And we talked about all the increases in medical insurance premiums that we're all paying right now because of behavior that is medically destructive.